Cool. So I'm gonna straight away jump in, and I'm not really sure how many of you guys know about this, but a lot of companies, mid-sized and at least larger organizations, basically have something called an applicant tracking system in place. The whole idea of having the applicant tracking system in place is to actually make the life of recruiters a lot more simpler. But from a job seeker standpoint, what you need to understand is that your resume hits a system first before it actually goes to a recruiter for review. So you have to make sure that your resume is readable and it's accessible as well. So this common systems that are out there are basically Bamboo HR, it's called Lever, it's Greenhouse, and Smart Recruiters. There are tons of them out there, and I would kind of advise you to just research a little bit on the different companies. The only reason why it's important for you to know whether you're applying and how you can actually figure that out is that when you hit on the apply button on the website, you would see that the URL of the website would change. So for example, if you're on like acework.io and we would be using an ATS system, it would probably change to greenhouse.io/acework-jobs. So that's when you actually know that you're applying to a system and not to a person directly. Most companies that probably don't use an ATS system would just ask you to send your resume to jobs@acework.io, for example. So that's also a very good indication. But what you need to also abide by is a certain guidelines to make sure that your profile is readable. To start off with, the header of your resume should technically only have your name and not have a lot of details. If you do have pictures, I would kind of move away from that, because sometimes it does not read it depending on how updated the system is. And we'll get to pictures a little bit in details later. But try and keep only your header in the name. So your name in the header. And then move on to avoiding tables, graphs, or images. So no logos of companies, no tables that probably has all the skills put up, or no graphs at all. The font size that you can use is between 10 to 12 points. So maybe 10 could be the rest of your profile, but where you want to highlight work experience or professional summary, you can just increase that to about 12. Avoid abbreviations. So, and that one way to also understand that is see how the job description is written out. So for example, if it says that it's looking out for candidates who have experience or education in MBA, and like an MBA candidate. So if they write MBA, that you can spell it out that way. But if they write it as masters in business administration, make sure that you also kind of state out your qualification that way. Fill in keywords, which means that add in skills or use the same terminologies that you would ideally find on the job description. So the whole point here is to, one, speak the language that job description and the job role speaks by filling it with keywords. So make sure that you have all of, you understand exactly the way the company or the industry speaks, and that is the language that you would want to put onto your resume by putting the right keywords. So these are skills, or these are probably even verbs that are used in the job description. Most of these ATS systems also ask you about how you should be uploading your resume. So if they ask you for a MS document, make sure that you put that up in that format. If not, if they're asking you, if they've not stated that at all, you can also upload a PDF, because it will be able to read the PDF. What happens usually is that when you're uploading a PDF and when you try to convert it into, maybe even MS Word, you would see that, everything just changes and shakes a little bit. So to try and avoid that, just try and see, what the ATS system is really asking for. Stick to bullet points. Please, move away from writing larger paragraphs, because it's true that recruiters spend, about 6 seconds on looking at their resume. So you may want to, kind of make sure that you have bullet points in place. Just give me 1 second, but I'm going to try and see if anyone's in the waiting room. Okay. Moving on is, this is a very common question that I get asked. How long should my resume be? So if you are an individual with less than 5 years of experience or 5 years of experience, I would advise you to just keep a one pager. And we'll talk about the layout of the resume as well. If you are someone with about 5 to 15 years of experience, you can move on to 2 pages. But if you're someone with 15 years and above, I would again advise you to just stick to 2 pages with stating only 10 years of relevant experience. And finally, what really goes into your CV. So the first section obviously needs to talk about your professional details. So that could be your name, your email address, your contact number. You can skip the contact number as well, but you can keep that by choice. So your name, your contact number, your LinkedIn profile, if that is also optimized well enough and worthy of putting that up on your resume, you can add that. You then move on to a professional summary. The whole idea of the professional summary is not to talk mostly about you, but also talk about the kind of value that you'll bring on if the company needs to hire you. So it's about who you are, what you do, and if someone needs to hire you or rather hires you, what's the kind of value that you'll be able to add. And the next section comes to the skills section, so that if you are someone, for example, a software engineer, or you can state all the technologies that you worked on and the different frameworks as well. So all the stacks and programming languages that you are well versed with, you can probably make a bullet pointed section which has all of those details. If you are someone in the non-technical profile, you can use keywords that would identify or rather speak of the kind of experience that you have. So if, for example, if you're an HR professional, you can probably you can state learning and development, you can state people operations, you can state employee grievances, etc. So depending on the kind of experience that you have, make sure that you put in the right keywords in that section. The most important part then is the work experience section. The whole idea is to make sure that you're talking about results and not only your tasks. And the only ways that you can show your results is, by adding in things that are quantifiable. And through the review, you'll understand you need to ask yourself certain questions. So you basically quantify the results in a way where it could be either in dollars, so the money that you've helped the company save, or the numbers, how, if you did conduct a workshop, what was the audience, or you presented in front of maybe 300 people, or you probably met your target of a certain amount in a particular quarter. As much as you can quantify something, that's what you need to state there. Like I said earlier, to add in the keywords, you need to mirror the language, so make sure that you're speaking the same way that the company or the industry really speaks in. If you already have remote work experience, which at this point of time most of us already do, make sure that you talk about the tools that you've used to just make your processes simpler. They could be as simple as communication tools that you've used. It could also be, if you've been in sales, you can talk about like using HubSpot or different CRMs and Salesforce. Those kind of tools, would make sure that you talk about that somewhere through your resume, and this is a good place to talk about it. And the last part is your volunteering experience. So in case if you've taken a gap year, it would be a good time to talk about and fill that gap by maybe speaking about the volunteering experience that you have, or just speak about the experience which is relevant to the role that you're applying to, so that it speaks of the skills that they're looking for. The next part is your interests. So especially with remote companies, the whole point of working in the remote company is to be flexible. So talk about the flexibility. So they would want to know how you've been managing your work-life balance. So this is a good place to talk about your interests. If your profile requires you to speak in a particular language or a different language, if it's bilingual or trilingual, make sure that you talk about the languages that you speak in and the proficiency level as well. And certificates are purely your awards that you've received, but just don't try to fill that up. Like, don't try to put those details to fill up your resume. Just only if it's relevant to the role and you're really proud of it, make sure that you add that. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now in terms of the basics of a resume. This is where you can reach out to us if you want to book a discovery call, you can just log on to our website and you can find those details there. But if you do have any questions around your job search, and if you think I can help, you can just drop in an email to talent@acework.com, .io, and I will reach out to you. So I'm going to now move on to reviewing resumes. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and admit anyone who's still there. Just give me a second. Okay. Cool. So I have George's resume that I wanted to review, and I just want to know whether he's here. Do we have George? Okay, I guess not. Cool. Do we then have Anna? Hi, is Anna here? Your mic's not working. Okay.
She's here, but her microphone is not working. She says in the chat.
Yeah, I actually wanted to make this a little interactive. Do you mind me asking some questions and then you can probably answer them here? Would that be okay with you? Okay, great. Cool. So I'm just going to share my screen again. Okay, just try and concentrate on, the site that I'm going to be talking to you about first. And the first thing that I wanted to address is your picture. So a lot of times what happens with the picture, like I said, if the ADA system is not updated enough, it can kind of, play around with the rest of the content that you've put on. So I would, understandably, you're applying to a German company. So there are certain companies and countries that appreciate pictures in the CV. So if you're applying to a traditional company, and if you feel like that would be required to build credibility, then I would add the picture. But otherwise, like there are a lot of remote companies don't really require it, or if you're applying to job roles in like different countries like India, the United States, they also don't require it. Also because they want to avoid biases. So unless until it's required, I would advise you to against it, but you can take a call on that. What I like about the fact over here is that you do have your LinkedIn profile as well. A lot of candidates forget to do that. So it's great to see that you have your LinkedIn profile. Your education section as well is very crisp. It talks, and the ideal way is the way she's presented it here. So, you need to just put in what was the course that you did. But here again, I would say, avoid using abbreviations. If you would write, what is this, master's in what exactly? Masters of Science. Okay, cool. So yeah, I would say that maybe you can add the whole thing, Masters of Science in Marketing and Creativity. Also put in, the entire college name that you have over here. Same thing with Bachelor's of in Arts, I guess. I'm not really sure, but whatever it is, I would advise you to put the whole course name here. But the format is absolutely fine. It needs to have your college name. It needs to have the years, the tenure that you were studying at. The interest also just gives me a brief understanding of what you do. It also plays in as a deal breaker. So, if I'm an interviewer who has the same skills, same interest, I would probably talk about it as well in an interview. Cool. Moving on, the work experience section. So what I see is that, of course, that you do have a couple of less years of experience because you're a student and you've probably done a couple of internships. But what I would like to highlight is that there are certain places that you can probably talk about what what result did you generate by doing a particular task. So I have added some questions here. So for example, when you use verbs like optimized, optimization usually always comes in with a percentage. So do you have, or can you go back and think about when what did your newsletter generate at the end of it? Did you get in more subscribers? Did you increase anything, like was there any result generated through these newsletters? Okay, let me just go to the chat again. Yeah, but you do get an idea of uh, why it's necessary, right? I'm so sorry. I had, okay, cool. Um, So what I've done is I've asked you certain questions. So for example, when you say that you collaborated with sales team to best communicate the product offering, my next question would be like, what happened here? Like, how do you decide to communicate these offerings? Or when you did communicate these offerings, what did it generate? Did the sales increase, or were there lesser queries because, you were more crisper in your communication? So it's always about, talking about the challenge, what was the action taken, and then what is the result generated. So most of the resumes that you find today are usually task oriented, so it only talks about the action that was generated, but it doesn't talk about the challenge, like why did you do a certain task, or it doesn't talk about what exactly happened once you moved on after doing the task. So here are the questions. Even over here, when you say creatives is very vague. They could be various creatives that you would have created on a daily basis. So do you want to talk? I think it would be best if you could talk about any creative specifically. So yeah, I think that would be one of the reasons, one of the things that you can mention here. I'm sorry, I can't go back to the chat because everything just hangs, but you just put in your comments there, and when I stop sharing, I'll just go back to the statements that you've made. Here, when you talk about being an intern, as a public relations intern, when you're saying assisting the marketing department, it's again very vague. I don't know what you were assisting with, and even as a recruiter, I would love to know what was the collaboration between you and the marketing team. So, as a PR person, what is it that you did with the marketing team needs to be specified over there. Again, use the same formula. What is the challenge? What was the action taken, and what is the result generated? Even if you're responsible for weekly highlighting reports, when you again talk about reports, you can again quantify it by talking about the number of reports, or how often would you generate. Okay, it's weekly reports, but how did you monitor it? What did these reports help with, or how many reports on a quarterly basis would you come up with? When you say you manage Instagram followers, or in Instagram accounts or Facebook accounts, the first thing would be like, what did you do to kind of increase the following? So were there analysis done? Were there different creatives again over there that you created that helped the team increase their following? So when you say plan, managing, it needs to be more explicit, like end to end. How did you exactly manage it? And same goes for when you're composing. My question again to you is, what kind of content were you composing? If you're conducting interviews, I would ask you the purpose of those interviews is probably for research. But the whole idea is that when I look at your resume, I should be getting all those details instead of asking those questions. So I have basically asked you questions more from a recruiter standpoint. So make sure, so it doesn't matter if your statement gets too long, but if it is crisp, if it delivers the result, and it also talks about the kind of work that you've done, I think it's good enough to be there. The other thing is that you don't really, have a lot of bullet points, so that's good. But in an ideal case, what they say is that you should have about 5 bullet points, and those bullet points should be relevant. So it should be 5 bullet points with relevant work experience. Moving on to, I wouldn't state other, but I would just write short-term experience. And I like this because this is probably not relevant to the roles that you're looking to apply to. So it is okay to add it exactly this way because, you know, it purely talks about the kind of work that you've done and you were working during that time. So this is good. This again is also good in terms of technical skills. In languages, what I would advise you to do is add the proficiency level. So even if you're certified, you can, you know, put that here. So I think your professional working proficiency in Italian would probably be C1 or C2. So I would advise you to add that here. So that could be native and that could be proficient, and you know, you can just add these two as well. Personal skills and professional skills, yes, they make absolute sense because these are, you know, again, the keywords that you would be feeding in from the job description. So this would change depending on the, you know, what's really stated in the job description. So if there's any soft skill that they kind of specify, you can probably add that over here and, you know, interchange it. Again, you know, this is all for feeding in the keywords. So make sure that you have a section which says personal skills and a section that says professional skills. Okay, I'm just going to stop the screen share and just go back to your chat. But okay, I just wanted to know, do you have any questions that you want me to address, particularly on your resume? So the layout is fine, but if I was you, I would remove the picture so that, you know, I move away from any biases. But yes, the layout works fine. But like I said, if the ATS system asks you to upload something in Word, please go by that. Sometimes the system also asks you to, you know, add your own details and upload your resume. I would do that for sure. So I would upload my resume, but I would also, you know, fill in all my details in the section which reads work experience. So do as the system basically asks you so that, you know, it reads through, and then obviously once the recruiter speaks to you, you can take it from there. Do you have anything else? So I'm going to share this with you and okay, great. I'm going to share this with you, and if you do have any questions later on as well, I'll be happy to take that up. Just a quick look, is George here still? Okay, no George. I think we had Enrique. Enrique, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm just gonna share my screen now, and let me pull out your resume.
I was wondering before seeing the text that was in Ana Maria's CV, how can we expand all the information without going into a second page?
So the whole idea, honestly, is to make sure that you have your most relevant details added to your resume. So what you need to do is, when you see a job description, you need to ask. So each statement on the job description is basically a question. You need to change that into a question and ask yourself if you do have that experience. Each of your each of your work experience shouldn't, you know, speak beyond that. And if it does speak beyond that, it needs to be correlated to the kind of work that you've already done. Also, if you just put in 5 bullet points per profile or per work experience, I think that should do the job as well. What happens when you use, you know, tools, like if you use a Canva or you use another resume builder, they propose these kind of formats. But what you can also go easy on is a simple Word document, and that's what I've always done. I don't go fancy. I just go pretty much on this line. I'm just going to show it to you guys, and I'll be happy to, you know, also email this with the follow-up after this. So technically, this is what my resumes have always been. They've been Word documents. You know, I'll probably remove the relevant skills or the remote skills depending on, you know, the number of skills that I want to put up. just have 3 to 5 bullet points. Exactly this way, put my education and certification details. So, keep it as simple as it can be. And it's okay to spill over to the second page, again, depending on the years of experience that you have. But I would avoid anything beyond 2 pages, because the whole idea of your resume technically is, to just speak of your relevant experience and not your entire work history.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Um, Sorry, Annika, I'm just going to find your resume. Okay. Cool. So, how confident do you feel about your resume at this point of time with whatever you have? Perhaps, just could you be honest about it? Because it'll just help me understand where you are at with your resume.
Yeah, sure. I felt pretty confident. I was struggling with keeping it to one page,
Mm-hmm.
but I made it in Illustrator and exported it in PDF. So, for example, now that I see it in Doc or in Word, it's not, that great, let's say. So I'm
Yeah.
feeling less confident than before, let's say.
Okay, no worries about. So what I have changed on your, I mean, I obviously just converted it, but I removed your contact details. So if you feel like something's missing, is because I've removed your contact details for it to be GDPR compliant, and also your
Cool.
website and portfolio. But otherwise, while moving formats, nothing really changed as much. But what I would kind of try and understand from you is that, was there any particular reason why you didn't really add the kind of responsibilities that you had in each of these roles?
Yeah, so I don't have that much experience, I think, in the kind of job that I'm looking to do now. So UX designer or product designer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to also include, because I think it's relevant to the kind of job that I want to look for now, my experience as a software developer, right? So combining everything is a lot of information, and I wanted to keep it in like one page, right? So that's maybe why everything is boiled down to the bare minimum.
Okay, fair enough. So what I see and what I really like about your experience, sorry, about your resume is this section where you've obviously gotten, the keywords in place, and it speaks about the different tools that you've used, which is great. And you may get past, the system by itself, but if I had to look at your resume, I'm not going to have any idea at all. So what I see missing is, understandable, I go to your website and your portfolio, but at the first eye, at the first shot of it, I might not push you forward because I don't know what you do. So the whole idea of having a job description is to let people know and apply in line with the role, right? And here the thing is that a product designer designation is not going to be able to help me understand exactly what you've been doing in your current role. And considering that you worked from 2017, I'm sure you have quantifiable achievements or just accomplishments that you would like to talk about. So what I would advise you is not stress on the number of pages at all at this point of time. What's important is the work that you do and how you actually write that. So the content is extremely important. Like I said, like, this content is great, but this not so much, because I don't know what you do. Um, and the whole point is, as a recruiter, is to spend the least amount of time on your profile, shortlist you, and then want to get on a call with you. So do you think that in each of these roles, would you have, maybe 3 to 5 bullet points that you would be able to talk about?
Definitely, I think so. I was following what you were saying, and maybe, and let's see what you think. I could have the dates next to the job title, and then
Mhm.
have a line with the, for example, relevant skills,
Yeah.
something like that that can relate because the if I have to choose 5 bullet points per job description, that would be too few for the things that I've done
Mhm.
in most of them. So it would be difficult to boil it down to just that. So maybe using the skills that I used in the job would be a better use of the
Yeah,
space.
so one of the ways, and I'm not sure if you've already designed multiple resumes, but you know how you look at job descriptions, they talk about collaboration with different teams. So, like for example, as a product designer, you would, you know, besides using tools, you would also be talking about collaborating with like software engineers or, you know, other teams, marketing teams for that matter, to work on the product, right? So those are your statements that actually go in. Any design or any feature that you suggested that would have probably, you know, gotten for any features that you would have designed for the product which then increased customer satisfaction or customer retention, and if you can quantify that into a percentage, I would advise you to add that as well. So it's about, you know, reading the job description and asking yourself, do you have that experience? And again, if it's a yes, then you answer it in the experience that you have against that statement. So, you know,
Mhm.
make sure what I would maybe do is have, you know, if your internship experience is not, usually they say that if you have a lot of years of experience, you don't really need to state your internship experience, so you can skip that out because you already have 2 graphic design experiences. So try and fill this up by like maybe 3 bullet points, which are obviously accomplishments, and then, you know, this could be 5 bullet points, because if that's the role that you're looking to apply, it can, you know, emphasize on the kind of work that you do as a product designer.
Sounds reasonable. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty good. And also forget about the number of pages, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Mm,
think with you, you worked for more than 5 years, right? So it's okay to spill over to the second page, but please do write something about the work that you've done, because you might miss an opportunity because you've not stated enough.
yeah. Just one more question, I think, is um, if so you're mentioning the job description in the offer, right? Would it be advisable to tailor the bullet points in every experience to what the job description is asking for?
Yes. So the whole point is to, like I said, to only share relevant experience and not your entire work history. So you only talk about, also while you're applying to companies, you know, don't do this pray and pray method where you just look at the job description and you think that you're, or anybody, not you particularly, but you think you are a fit, but, you know, you need to at least be an 80% fit. So when you are automatically an 80% fit to the job description, you do have that much of content to actually add into your resume and make it relevant. So it always has to be matching with the job description. And you know, you can always have one master resume, and that's what I do with people that I work. I help them create one master resume which has all of their experiences, and once they start, you know, getting into a more tailored way of applying to jobs, they just take details from the master resume and, you know, add that relevant details and kind of keep applying to roles, because there are a lot of people who apply to different roles, so they need master resumes for that, which has like different roles and their accomplishments. But if you, you know, I would always advise you anyways to just have a master resume, pick up details that are only relevant, and create that new resume each time you're applying to a role.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Thanks. Everything else is actually great. Because you are a designer, I think you can get away with designing your profile this way. Again, you know, it's totally up to you if you would want to, you know, put up a picture of yourself. But you know, I do know what you look like with this, which is animated, so that's fine. But it can just play around with the ATS system. So you know, if you want to skip this, just completely skip it as well. But overall, the design and the colors and all of that, you know, isn't too much. It's great, actually. It works fine. Yeah, it's just the content that's missing here.
Cool. Thanks. That was
No
very useful.
worries. Great. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and go back to chat. So these are the 2 resumes that I had. We have 15 minutes, and you know, I'm just going to take certain questions. Cool. Let's go with, is professional profile a must? It's a must when you have a lot of accomplishments to talk. It's a good to have, to be honest, but you know, people with lesser years of experience use that space to also talk about the values, or the value they can bring on board. So if you do have enough and more accomplishments, if you're someone like who's senior and who's had a lot of promotions, for example, that's a good way and a good space to talk about it. But you can make do without it, but I would always read a professional summary. So if I see that's again relevant, and it has exactly a gist of that person's experience, I would recommend it for sure. Yes, Harish, I will share the format in the next email that will go out with the recording and the slides. I will share the format as well. If you just finished your studies and don't have enough of relevant work experience for the job you would like to apply to, how would you manage the resume problem? So would you mind telling me a little bit about what kind of education do you have and what are the kind of roles that you're applying to? You can unmute yourself or you can just put it in chat, Margarita. Okay, sorry. The question was if you just finished your studies and don't have enough or relevant work experience for the job you would like to apply to, how should you manage the resume properly? So I'm not sure if you're still here, but I'm currently finishing my bachelor's in media studies and searching for. Okay, so if you've done any projects in while you were studying your bachelor's, and if it's in line with the roles that you're applying to, I would add a section which would talk about projects, and I would make sure that I talk a little bit of details around the project. And if you can, obviously there was a result that was generated, I would spend some time in talking about the results. So make sure you talk about what is the challenge that you guys were trying to solve. You know, by doing the project, you then move on to what exactly the tasks that were conducted while doing the project, and then what is the result that was generated. The other way to also talk about your teamwork and collaboration skills is talking about the people that you work with. So you can say that collaborated with a team of 6 individuals on so and so project, and then you can just talk about the project details. Um, but in the meanwhile, yes, while you're looking for internships, you can always take up volunteering, or you can take up freelancing roles, something really small, while you're still looking out for internship, and that can also be added in as another set of work experience that can speak about the skills that you have. Great. And Nakini said, is there a way to check if the resume is ATS compliant? I have a PDF resume at the moment, by the way. Okay, so please don't worry so much about the format. Like I said, just try and understand what the system says, and then just apply with that. And yes, there is a tool and sorry, what do you call it? A website called cvscan.uk. So what it does, it'll ask you to put in your resume, which is like you copy paste your resume on one side, then you choose the industry, and then you copy paste the job description on the other side. It does a matching of keywords to make sure that you probably will get through the system. So again, there you need to aim for at least about a 70 to 80% match for you to get through the system and land into a recruiter's inbox. So you can try that out. There is something, I don't know what's the email, sorry, the URL completely, but you can also look at JobScan. It does pretty much the same thing, but I think it takes it one step deeper into which are the keywords and what you could use, or how many times has a particular keyword shown up on the job description, and how many times you have it in your resume. So you can try these two, but also if you just do Google search on a resume matching with ATS systems, you should probably get something else as well. Great. Do we have anything else? Does anyone have any other questions? Cool. And I think we don't have George yet, so reviews here. I think I would have liked to review his profile with him. Um, but yeah, I'm pretty much done. Uh, so the thing is that I actually honestly came prepared with three of their resumes, so I would have needed some time with yours, and then I also need to remove the contact details, etc. So what we can do, Mandakini, is probably we're going to have this session often, so just email it to me. I don't know whether you've already done that, but just email it to me, and we can probably review your profile in the next session. That's okay. Yeah. You can just send it to talent.acework.io. Okay, Valentina has another question. It says, is it better to write more or less bullet points under each job title? I wouldn't write more than 5, to be honest, and especially if you have like a lot of work experiences, I would keep it as, again, crisp and as relevant as I can to the job role. So make sure that you don't have a lot of them besides 5. Like I've seen a lot of resumes where people have like 7 or 9 bullet points, and I'll just read the first work experience and I'll skip forward. So to avoid that, I would just add in few and just equal it up in each work experience.